Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. Today we are discussing what might be considered the full-fat Calibre 321 modern era Speedmaster. Launched in 2019 and the launch platform for the reborn Calibre 321. This is the Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch 321 Platinum. It is all of those things. Platinum, yes, but also with an onyx dial containing meteorite subregisters. It's massive in the hand. Now, it's a Moonwatch patterned after the first Moonwatch to fly on the moon, an early professional model, the 105012. So that's the touchstone for the design of this watch right here. But all of the materials here are modern and luxury. 42 millimeters in diameter. The watch measures 13.8 millimeters thick. It is sapphire sandwich, that is sapphire crystal both sides. From lug tip to lug tip, 47.4 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. This watch is much less overtly vintage than the Ed White. This is a timepiece that still looks contemporary due to the use of a Speedmaster Professional 42 millimeter case. It fits well on my wrist and not being too large, as well as not being mounted on a bracelet. It does fit better on a smaller wrist than a bracelet-clad Moonwatch would, so keep that in mind. I think you could wear this on a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference. My wrist with a flat top and an oval cross-section is 16. I will say, though, that it's probably not going to fit underneath the tightest of dress cuffs just because of the overlap of the bezel right there, but a jacket is absolutely fine. Taking a look at the strap, upscale. You generally don't see large rectangular symmetrical scale alligator on a Moonwatch, but this strap is commensurate to the price and billing of the model. Matte black, you can see it's got some bolstering or stuffing to add volume, monotone stitch, folded edge. On the bottom, small round scale alligator. We're seeing this more and more on super premium watches, but from the likes of de Bethune or Vacheron or F. Pigeon or Louis Le Chopard, to see it on an Omega, that speaks to the esteem Omega has for this model internally. We've got a vintage style Omega logo, contemporary to the mid to late 60s, and then a combination of satin and polish and media blast, a triple finished pin buckle. It is platinum like the watch. Ultra white platinum. We've got what's known as a Speedmaster Professional case, since we've got the guard structures for the crown and the pushers, the 40 millimeter size, and then the lyre style lugs with the inward and outward bevel. Mid-case satinated, inward bevel satinated. The underside of the bezel is polished. We have a bevel that runs end to end, all polished. You can see the use of the vintage style mid to late 60s Omega logos to remind you that that 10512 actually went to the moon in period. Ironically, I should say that those watches were considered to be pre-moon, even though they were Speedmaster Professionals, and so I guess you could say no Moonwatch has actually been to the moon, since it was only pre-moon Calibre 321 Speedmasters that made the trip. So just keep that in mind as a little piece of historical bookkeeping. Taking a look at the dial, first thing I have to mention is the bezel. It's ceramic here for scratch resistance. You've got the much loved dot over 90. You've got the diagonal orientation of the dots in the 70s. You've got a crystal that is boxed and cambered to create the appearance of a vintage plexi, but make no mistake, it is sapphire. We have white gold hands, vintage style Omega marquee, and white gold indices, which are all applique. We also have polished chapterings to each of the subregisters. Now the dial is black onyx stone. The subregisters are meteorite. And then you can see the vintage Omega Speedmaster and Omega logo up at 12 o'clock, giving it a vintage feel, although no one's going to ever mistake this for a utilitarian timepiece. Turn out the lights, and you can see that there is no shortage of luminescence, including the chronograph seconds hand. Taking a look on the reverse side, it's water resistant down to 50 meters, so don't attempt to swim with it, but the watch features the Calibre 321, and it is gorgeous. It's actually to a higher standard of finish and decoration than it would have been back in the 60s. When Omega reestablished the 321, which is based on the Lamagna 2310, it created a special atelier where these 321 caliber watches are built inside and out by one watchmaker. So the movement, the casing up, the dial assembly, all of that by one watchmaker. Unheard of elsewhere in Omega's operation, unless we're talking about the high complications like the chrono chime or the tourbillon. So this is very elite. You could see the beveling on the bridges, although probably applied by some sort of mechanical process a la Blancpain. It's mirrored and rounded and beautiful. So a combination of rose gilded and steel parts, manual wind, 2.5 hertz beat rate. The much loved column wheel is back with a lateral clutch engagement system, 55-hour power reserve. We've got a blue to overcoil hairspring, so in just about any physical position, this 17 joule movement will keep excellent time. Isochronous operation, that is the point of an overcoil. Doesn't hurt to have 55 hours of power reserve. That's still a little bit more than the current Moonwatch with its 3861 movement. You can see there's a little hairspring hooking guard right next to the regulator. That's an old school feature for chronographs with and watches generally with overcoil hairsprings. It prevents a shock from causing the overcoil to get hung up on the regulator. So that is prevented by that little wire hairspring guard right there. Overall, this is a standard of aesthetics and attention to detail you just don't get on any standard Omega watch, and it is very, very exciting to encounter. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.